Canada's at it again. More beer stores shutting down, alcohol production tightening, and the usual elites acting surprised. Mark Carney, the guy always preaching economic stability, pretends to be shocked while regular Canadians struggle to buy a simple six-pack under new restrictions. The irony? Trump warned about this kind of top-down control years ago. Now it's here, and Canadians are learning firsthand what liberal leadership really means. Less freedom, higher costs, and a government completely out of touch with everyday people.
Their message to the legislature Thursday. Chanting outside the NDP caucus meeting room ahead of the start of the fall session beginning next week.
They're exercising their democratic rights. And that is not something that is new in this province.
Like the empty shelves are because they can't reorder.
5 weeks into the strike, it's hitting certain sectors especially hard.
It has cut off our business completely.
With pickets outside government liquor stores along with the liquor distribution branch warehouse, businesses relying on alcohol are being hurt. In particular, wine importers whose product comes in and out of the warehouse.
Striking public service workers made their voices heard at the legislature on Thursday, chanting outside the NDP caucus meeting room just days before the fall session begins. They call it an exercise of democratic rights. And sure, protests aren't new in this province. But 5 weeks into this strike, the impact is everywhere. Empty shelves line stores that can't reorder. Liquor distribution has been crippled. Restaurants and bars are shutting down early. Importers are losing thousands of dollars every single day because nothing is moving. They can't ship, can't sell, and can't restock. This isn't just another labor dispute. It's a reflection of a country collapsing under its own bureaucratic weight. The liquor distribution branch warehouses are blocked by picket lines, and government liquor stores have become flashpoints of frustration. Businesses that rely on alcohol imports, especially wine distributors, are being hammered the hardest. Their products are stuck in limbo, and small business owners, the people who actually keep the economy alive, are being pushed to the brink. Yet the government acts like it's business as usual. The people in charge are hiding behind union politics, pretending this is some noble fight for fairness. It's not. It's a disaster of leadership. The damage is real, and it's spreading fast. Regular Canadians just want to buy a drink after work or keep their business running, but they're the ones paying the price for political incompetence. And where are the so-called experts? Mark Carney, the former Bank of Canada governor and the man who loves lecturing about stability and sustainability, is nowhere to be found. Silent, watching from a polished office while working Canadians lose their jobs and businesses fold. This is exactly what happens when globalist bankers and bureaucrats run the show. People who talk about economies like they're numbers on a spreadsheet while ignoring the lives being destroyed underneath those charts. They don't feel the pain of a collapsing business or the fear of not making payroll. They'll never understand what true financial hardship looks like. Meanwhile, inflation keeps rising, taxes are sky high, and the Canadian dollar continues to weaken. Demand for products like alcohol is up 8%, but supply lines are frozen. And somehow, the private sector, the people struggling to keep Canada functioning, are being blamed for the chaos. The government's answer? More bureaucracy, more empty talk, more meaningless promises. Not one bold action to reopen supply lines or help small businesses stay afloat. Canada is running out of beer and wine, and out of patience. What's left is a nation trapped by its own leadership, one that's forgotten who really keeps it running.
Happening is we are bleeding money without any ability to generate revenue.
This private liquor store has benefited from an overflow of customers from many closed government stores, but it too now is starting to feel the pinch with a lack of supply of certain products. The union's latest demand is an 8% raise over 2 years. The government has offered a total of 5%. The BCGEU escalated strike action Thursday with 1,200 more picketers. It says more disruption is likely coming in a big way.
Within the next week, there'll be a vastly increased impact on the general public. Unfortunately, that's unavoidable.
This is what socialism looks like when it collapses under its own weight. Endless negotiations, endless protests, and absolutely zero accountability. The unions have the government by the throat, and elites like Mark Carney are perfectly fine with it because it serves their agenda. Centralized control, no freedom, no competition, and no incentive to work harder. Everything depends on government approval. Everything. Trump warned about this years ago. When the government starts controlling production and distribution, when it decides what's essential and what's not, you lose your freedom. Canada laughed back then, insisting it could never happen here. Well, look around. A single strike has paralyzed an entire industry. People are lining up for beer like it's the Soviet Union, while politicians congratulate themselves for standing with workers. But who's standing with the small business owners, the warehouse drivers, the bar owners, and the importers losing everything? No one. They're being abandoned, left to watch years of effort and investment disappear. Instead of leadership, Canadians get photo ops and political theater. This isn't progress. It's collapse disguised as compassion. And ordinary Canadians are the ones paying the price for their government's arrogance.
The politicians returning to work there.
Rob joins us live from Victoria. Rob, as you mentioned, the legislature resumes sitting on Monday. What are we expecting this fall session?
Well, it's going to be a busy session, Mijung. We heard from the House Leader Mike Farnworth today that the NDP plan to introduce 18 separate bills, and they plan to table almost all of those next week. So it's going to be a very busy time starting on Monday. The topics covered on that will range from things like protecting healthcare, the economy, energy, and also likely public safety. So a lot of legislation being introduced at the same time as we expect to see likely hundreds, if not more, government workers.
Let's call a spade a spade. This is incompetence mixed with extreme arrogance. The government could have prevented this crisis weeks, even months ago. They had every opportunity to step in, negotiate fairly, or at least secure key supply routes to keep the country running. But they didn't. Instead, they let ideology win over realism and common sense. And Mark Carney, the so-called future Prime Minister, is nowhere to be found. While Canadians can't even buy a six-pack of beer, he's too busy penning op-eds about sustainable finance from a comfortable office, detached from the chaos on the ground. What's worse is how normalized this has all become. Canadians have grown used to it. High prices, empty shelves, endless excuses from people in power. Decades of weak leadership have bred a system where there's no urgency, no accountability, and no solutions. Just political photo ops that mean nothing. The kind where you can see right through it. Hollow smiles, hollow speeches, and another round of taxes to fix problems the government itself created. And let's be honest, Trump would never have let this slide. He would have called it out immediately, fixed it fast, and held people accountable until results came through. That's leadership. What Canada has now is the opposite. Excuses, finger-pointing, and long-winded speeches that solve nothing. America, in many ways, has learned from Canada's mistakes, because what's unfolding up north is a warning about what happens when globalists run your country instead of patriots who actually care about their people. Empty shelves, broken supply chains, and a political class so insulated they genuinely believe none of this will touch them. So when you see those bare beer shelves in British Columbia, remember, it's not just a strike. It's a symptom of a deeper rot. It's what happens when leadership prioritizes ideology over practicality and optics over outcomes. Mark Carney can pretend to be shocked all he wants, but Trump saw this coming a mile away. And now, the rest of Canada is living with the consequences.
So it's launched an overtime ban covering more than 1,700 liquor distribution branch workers. It impacts the head office in Burnaby and distribution centers in Delta, Richmond, and Kamloops. It's now almost 2 weeks since job action began. So far, more than 6,000 public service workers are on strike. Overall, the union represents more than 34,000 workers, and that includes social workers, correctional officers, firefighters. Now, wages are one of those key sticking points. The BCGEU says it proposes an 8.25% wage increase over 2 years, while the province has said the union wants a 15.75% compensation increase, including both wages and...
Here we go again. Canada is falling apart under its own failed leadership. The BCGEU has just escalated its strike, and now even more liquor workers are walking off the job. That means more empty shelves, more struggling businesses, and more silence from Mark Carney and Trudeau's circle. Just look at BCGEU's own tweet. 4 weeks on strike, thousands of hours on the line, countless yellow flags waving and endless honks of support. Morale is high. We have the power, and we're not backing down until the government delivers a fair deal. This is the picture of a country that can't even manage its own beer supply, yet still dares to call itself a model of stability. Carney, the self-proclaimed economic genius, keeps preaching about sound economics, while his brand of globalist policy has created chaos. Skyrocketing inflation, crushed small businesses, and workers demanding massive raises in an economy that's already on fire. This is what happens when bureaucrats replace real leaders. Trump built companies, created jobs, kept shelves stocked, and gave people careers. Carney built speeches, excuses, and more bureaucracy. Canada is bleeding from the inside out, and no one in power has the courage to stop it. This isn't leadership. It's a slow-motion collapse, and it's an absolute disgrace.
Workers walked off the job Wednesday at 25 liquor distribution branch retail stores across the province.
We're going to keep escalating as necessary to bring government to the negotiating table. What we're seeing is that government has refused to negotiate. They've really abdicated responsibility on this, and frankly, they're out of touch not just with our members, but also with the general public.
Around 14,000 workers are now part of the longest public service strike in BC history. BC liquor stores that are not taking part in the Job Act.
Did you see that? That right there is what failed leadership looks like. Over 600 more liquor store workers have just joined the strike, and shelves across Canada are emptier than ever. The government has completely vanished. No talks, no plan, no accountability. Their strategy seems to be, let it all burn. And of course, Mark Carney and his elite pals will call this collective bargaining. No, this is collective collapse. 14,000 workers are now on strike. Private stores are running out of stock. Bars and restaurants are bleeding cash. And politicians are keating like it's business as usual. You can't even host a simple dinner party in Vancouver without hitting supply limits. This is Trudeau's Canada, careless, restrictive, and collapsing under its own incompetence. One failure after another, with no one willing to take responsibility. Trump would never have let this happen. He'd step in, fix it fast, or find the people who could. And he'd fire anyone wasting time or ruining progress. That's leadership. Meanwhile, Carney is too busy fantasizing about running the country while it runs out of beer. That's not vision. That's delusion. And that's all for today, folks. From all of us here at ON, the Zone Media.